What's up, Internet? Check me out. I'm magical, expressive hands in front of a camera. Jazz hands. So I've had these sort of videos been requested a few times, and honestly, I've always wanted to do one, but it would have been a little bit different. I should keep my hands in view while there's nothing there. But the thing is, that would have been a very different kind of video, mainly because I kind of find these videos a little dumb. But then something happened yesterday, and, well, the end result was I either make this video today, or I don't ever make one of these videos. So this is a literal do or die moment for me. A few things to point out. I've never recorded video with my DSLR before. I don't know how well the audio quality is, if it really even records audio. I mean, if you're hearing this, I guess it does, but the quality might be a little weird just because I'm not used to this sort of thing. Another thing worth noting is, and this wouldn't affect very much, but I'm not recording in my studio right now because the lighting is terrible. I'm actually recording in a storage closet across the way that had floodlights in it with a really bad bed sheet stapled to the wall that I cut in half just so I could create some sort of not terrible backdrop. Anyway, people have been requesting that I talk about what games I've I've acquired recently, and as someone who's recently unemployed and whose income is entirely his Patreon donations at this point, not so subtle a hint there, I don't really have a lot of money to be doing this. But yesterday happened, and I think now's the time to do one of these, even if I'm stretching past a camera with my hands just trying to get in shot, because I've never recorded video like this. This is a learning experience if nothing else. Anyway, as I kind of stated, this is mostly a video on what I acquired yesterday, but there's a bit of a preamble to that started last week. So last week, I went game hunting with my uncle. We try and do this once a year. It's been a few years since we've done it, though. But the thing is, this town is horrible for games. There's one game shop, and that one game shop charges about 10,000% where anything is worth. So we got nothing there. And my main goal was to get a copy of Pokemon Crystal and a GBA SP, preferably one with a crazy backlight because, you know, it's the best one. And you want to be able to play your Game Boy Color games in bed at night without turning on a light. Makes sense. Spoilers, I didn't get any of those. I ended up having to go to eBay to get my Pokemon Crystal and paying an inordinate sum of money, and I still don't have a Game Boy Advance, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, we ended up kind of skipping the one game shop because they had nothing we could afford in it, and we went to like 20 different pawn shops, and only one had games. So I guess we'll start by just talking about the games I got in there. And, oh, right. If there's weird cuts and whatever, this is just sort of how my camera handles files. For whatever reason, it cuts file sizes for video. I tested it once. Anyway, the first game I found was this guy, Total Overdose, A Gunslinger's Tale in Mexico. And I've been wanting to find this game for a very, very long time. People have sort of likened it akin to Postal meets GTA. And say what you will about Postal, at least that was kind of a creative game. And that interested me. I've wanted to try and check out this game, and I guarantee you that the bonus Lara Croft Tomb Raider Legend Inside DVD is not in here, and I checked. Freebie, but it's not there, so no freebie. Sad face. But this cost me about $2. Next thing I got was a copy of Rave Master on the GameCube, and I know the Game Boy Advance game is supposed to be ridiculously good, like it's a Smash Bros. Style game, whereas this is more like a Power Stone sort of game, as I understand. And I had a little bit of regret picking this, mainly because it was $15, but it was between this or Ribbit King, which is a golfing game on the GameCube that uses frogs. It's really weird, but I really wanted it, and I ended up picking this, and I might have made the wrong decision because the inside of the disc, specifically like the inner ring, is just completely messed up. I don't know how that's going to affect how it plays. I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but I'm hoping it works because I can't get back there because that's very far away, the shop we went to. Next, I checked out the PS2 section and found Summoner. And this game was about $5. And honestly, I don't think this is the game I thought it was. I think I got this confused with a GameCube RPG called, I want to say Lost Kingdoms. But it was cheap. It was about $4 or $5. So, I mean, okay. Now, the thing about that store and its game section was it's designed like it's basically a dead-ended hallway. So you go in one end, you go down, you return. It's Nintendo stuff, PlayStation stuff, Sony stuff, and then Microsoft stuff. But in the middle is like a bunch of pre-PS2, pre-GameCube era stuff. And I searched that, the cabinets there was like 4 of them. And the first thing that caught my eye was in the Genesis department, and this is going to be a recurring thing with me. I saw something I kind of regretted not picking up. They had a copy of Dynamite Headdy for $15. And I mean, I've got a couple compilations that have it on it, but for $15, I really wanted it. That's the thing with me, is I'm really good at talking myself out of things I want. Case in point, my PC copy of Portal that I bought at a GameStop 5 years after it acquired it. I was there the moment it was put on the shelves. Every time I went there, over the course of 5 years, I talked myself out of buying it every single time. I'm legitimately amazing at keeping myself from being happy like that. But the second thing I saw after Dynamite Headdy was a Sega Saturn copy of Virtua Fighter Remix in like a little square cardboard sleeve, which is weird. You normally only see those as promotional things. Like I've got Virtua Fighter 2 in one of those sleeves. And I asked how much that was, and unfortunately, you had to buy it with the Sega Saturn that they charged about $300 for it, which, first, no. You can get one for about 1/10 of that, maybe 1/5 of that if you really, really want to spend a lot on your Sega Saturn. Second of all, I already have one. And third of all, Virtua Fighter Remix was given away for free. I do not aspire to pay that much for Virtua Fighter Remix. But next to that was a case of old school PlayStation games where I saw something I had been looking for a very, very long time, but I'd never actually seen. Tiny Tank. This is a PlayStation game. I saw some cutscenes and some gameplay of when I was a kid, and I remember thinking it looked very, very funny and very, very cool. And I really wanted to play this game, but I got it confused with like 1,000,001 other games, most famously like Metal Arms, A Glitch in the System, a game I picked up earlier this year thinking it was this. But I've got this, which makes me kind of happy. It was $15, which you can see kind of down there, which is a little expensive, but still, it was, I think, worth it. Just because it was such an interesting game, and a game I'd hunted for a very long time. Now, that's sort of the end of the games I picked up at that pawn shop and last week, but we're not done there, because I ended up buying some accessories for a game I've never played, and feel free to start laughing at me now. But in the entire cabinet next to the PlayStation stuff was this entire 4-tiered cabinet of Skylanders. And the thing is about Skylanders is I've never played it, I don't have the game, I don't have the scanner thing, it's not something that's ever really mattered to me. But I know it was a Spyro game. And while I don't have a lot of experience with Spyro games, I always told myself if I were to get one Skylander, I know exactly what it would be. And I've told this story to a few people. They always automatically assume it's Spyro, but it's this little lady right here, Cinder. And they had a deal, because I like me a bad girl, what can I say? But they had a deal where it was buy one, get 3 free, and that wasn't optional. You had to take 3 if you bought one, and it was only $1 for one, so okay. But it's like, they must really want to get rid of these things. Can't imagine why. I mean, they're only Skylanders, the best thing ever, right? They're so relevant in today's date and age. But I started looking around these cabinets, and the thing about the cabinets, I'm just going to mess with the focus just a little because it looks a little out of focus. There we go. I looked around these cabinets, and pretty much everything I saw looked like this weird, deformed, goblin-looking thing. And honestly, I didn't want any of them. But then I saw this one little guy and, well, he kind of immediately captured my heart. He's this like black dragon with this metallic blue paint job and this weird like green pearlescent sheen on it. And he looked so cool, and he was a freebie. But what's really interesting about this little guy right here is all these Skylanders have like names and stories and stuff. And I decided when I got home, I wanted to figure out what this guy's deal was. So I looked up like a list of all Skylanders, and I found his list, or his listing. His name's apparently Blackout, and on his page there was an immediate link to all the immediate eBay listings that feature this one particular guy. And can you guess what the cheapest eBay listing with this guy was? It wasn't $1, it wasn't $2, but rather this one guy right here, cheapest one I could find on eBay at the time I looked, $80. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think he looks really cool. I don't think he's worth that. That said, I'm not sure I'm going to sell him. I mean, I guess I could and literally make all I made back from going there last week. But at the same time, I don't want to have to deal with having to deal with like a buyer for one thing. And for another, I don't want to be that guy who gets something super cheap and then turns around and sells it for like 20 times what he paid for. Yes, it's smart business sense, but I mean, I'm always a dreamer. That's why I'm doing this instead of making millions of money as a CEO of another company. It's just, as someone who does things because he loves to do something, I find people who automatically turn around and make a huge profit off something, off of someone else's passion, to be kind of the scum of the earth, so to speak. So I might just keep this guy. Besides, I bought Skylanders for a little figurine of a video game that I could put in my studio, because my studio doesn't have a lot of cool video game stuff in it. And I thought this was pretty cool. Now, this was not one of the 2 free guys I got, but this one was sitting in a box, or on the cabinet below it, and it cost $2 because it was a lot bigger. But this one, this big, dark nightmare, actually that's its name, which is kind of funny because it's a knight and a horse, but apparently it came in a set with this guy along with a couple other accessories, and if you sell these 2 together, it's worth a lot more. This one, not worth very much, but when paired with its buddy, it's apparently ridiculously expensive. But again, I just like that black on green pearlescent sheen. That just looks really nice. I like that metallic blue, which is even more apparent on like its ponytail and its, actual pony's tail. And I mean, it's carrying a giant Onyx Zweihander. How could I not get that? And it was $2. Why not? And then we sort of came to the last one I got, which, of course, at this point, like I said, everything there looked like some kind of weird deformed goblin. Why should I care? And I honestly was about to tell the storekeeper, pick one, you take it home, we'll call it my last one. But then I saw this little guy sparkling in the background. And it's just this like neat little crystal griffin looking thing. I don't know what this one's deal is, but it looked pretty. And again, I was trying to find some cheap, neat video game stuff I could put in my studio, like put it on top of my PC box or whatever. So, I think I did pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I think they look pretty cool. That said, the game acquisition was a little bit less than ideal. I wish I could have found, a GBA SP. Even to this day, I still wish I had a GBA SP. I wish I could find Pokemon Crystal for not the inordinate sum of money I paid on eBay. But what can you do? Anyway, I think I'm going to just make a quick edit just so that I can empty out my memory card and we can start the actual big fun games of what I got yesterday. But I'll be back like that. And we're back. So long story short, I mean, I guess if you're still lugging around a bunch of old Skylanders shit, send it my way maybe? I don't know, I guess I'm inadvertently collecting it. Anyway, just yesterday I was awoken with a phone call from my uncle, and we'd been experiencing some really bad lightning storms recently. And, quick apology if the focus or whatever's changed a little. I had a cat run through here and kind of destroy my entire set. You know how it is. Anyway, we had some bad lightning storms, and a stray lightning bolt hit my grandmother's tree. Now, everything's fine and everything, but we had to go chop down a tree. And as we went to my grandmother's house, I saw a sign that was maybe the most magical thing ever. It said, video game yard sale. And, I mean, going back to the beginning of this, video games aren't really a thing in this town, so to see that was kind of something kind of magical to me. And the guy who ran it was super, super nice, and his entire yard sale was bigger than my entire collection. So I really wish I had more money and I could have just bought more, but I guess we'll start with what I got in order as we went. So, you can't have a good Super Nintendo collection without a copy of Super Bomberman 2. You just can't. And you know what really, really goes well with Super Bomberman 2? Super Bomberman 3. And once you finish playing Super Bomberman 2 and 3, you get sort of an itch that can only be scratched with Super Bomberman 4. I'm a little upset he didn't have the boxed Super Bomberman 1, which came in that like giant party pack, which I'm not a big box guy or anything, but I mean, if I'm gonna start collecting Bomberman boxes, I'd like to get the giant Bomberman 1 box. He also didn't have Super Bomberman 5, which is like the really hard to find one, but still, you know, I went from having 0 Super Bomberman games to having 60% of them. That's not too bad. So let's just put them up there. And that was pretty much all the Super Famicom stuff we got. So let's just jump right to NES and Famicom, because he only had 3 NES Famicom games. The first of which, Dragon Buster 2. Now I know what you're asking. What's Dragon Buster 2? The only thing I'm certain about is it's the sequel to Dragon Buster, which was a really bad arcade game that turned to a really unfair NES game. But it looks kind of neat. I looked at the back a little, and it looks like a genuinely interesting game. But what interested me more is this is a Namco Famicom game, and more importantly, it's boxed. See, Namco made these really nice clamshell cases for their NES Famicom games, and I've always sort of wanted to start collecting them, especially the Wagyanland games, even though I can't play them. So I think this is going to start a little love affair of collecting Famicom boxes. Now, the next thing I got is the pinnacle of completely official carts, Super Wonderful Mario. I don't know what this is, but it probably either came from Taiwan or Russia, and judging by the building right here, I'm betting Russia, as that's where these pirate carts come from. But when you throw a pirate cart in front of my face, I can't not have it. I mean, case in point, my Google Chrome browser for the past month has had about 20 tabs open perpetually at Alibaba, just looking at different pirate carts. If it weren't for the fact that I, again, keep talking myself out of buying things, and the fact that last time I tried to buy anything off there, they required me to take a photo of myself holding a driver's license and my credit card, which seemed a little sketchy. You know, I might be swimming in multi-carts right now. But, you know what also tides me over with multi-carts? More multi-carts. And this actually looks like the box art for the Dendy, which is kind of one of the more famous multi-carts. It's like the big famous Russian one. But this is good because I need to somehow get some more multi-carts up in here for my multi-cart series. So those will be fun in the future. And I guess here's where we start telling a bit of a story, because I wasn't the only person there. There was this other guy here who had a lot more money. And he was literally trying to buy everything that wasn't nailed down. And he ended up having a lot of things I wanted. I think I had a bunch of things he wanted. So we ended up starting to like have a bit of a duel, so to speak. And we met at the Game Boy cart, which were in like this giant laundry hamper. And I honestly wish I just made an offer on the laundry hamper itself, full of carts. But I ended up taking away about a quarter of it. And that's because the guy who ran it, who was super nice, was a little bit vague with his prices, which ended up causing me some problems. But first thing I picked up was Chalvo 55, which is a Game Boy puzzle platformer starring this little guy, who's famous for being in this game and a unfinished Virtual Boy prototype. Yeah! But this was a import Game Boy game I really wanted to play, and it's not common. It's relatively uncommon and costs a fair bit of money. The next thing I picked up at the Game Boy booth was this. I noticed the Bandai logo in the corner and saw RV and kind of thought it might be Super Robot Wars. had I actually paid attention to the top of the thing, you can see a little fish there. It's a fishing game. That's going to be interesting for me to play without any sort of ability to read Japanese. Next we have another fishing game. This is Legend of the River King 3, apparently the first one to come out in North America, which I learned all of 2 minutes ago. Genuinely, I thought the only one we got was that half-assed DS game, but apparently this one's available in English. So I can play that with a translation patch applied. That's kind of nice. Next we have Dragon Quest Monsters, which is a monster catching training RPG type thing. I played the DS one, and before it was stolen, I remembered really enjoying it. So I'm hoping this is going to be pretty good. Next we have Solar Striker. Really good shmup. Really excited to have this. I've wanted it for a long time. I'm just going to throw it across the room. I'm seeing my battery thing flashing, so I might have to cut this rather short and make another part. Next we have the Game Boy Game & Watch Gallery 2, followed by Game Boy Game & Watch Gallery 3. He had the first one in English, but it was in a different pile, so I think that was something he missorted and wanted to keep or something, but I'm not entirely sure. Okay, next we have this thing, which I think is a monster training RPG. Japan's got plenty of these on the Game Boy Color, so when you play enough of them, you sort of end up with a sixth sense about these things. But I kind of like collecting those. Next is in the slightly less than authentic Ninja Skyscraper Fight on the Game Boy, which is the Chinese 50/50 it's pirated Ninja Gaiden on the Game Boy. Next we have another unofficial cart, Devil Children Red Book. And you can tell because it's got a purple cart and the sticker is not actually on there straight. But I saw this and said, I need this in my life. Next we have Hello Kitty Something. I think this is a compilation minigame game. And there's a few Hello Kitty games on the Game Boy Color that I'm looking for. And this I don't think is one of them, but it was pretty cheap, so I don't mind. Space Battleship Yamato. I know nothing about the source material. I just recognize the ship on it. Your guess as to what this is as good as mine. Next we have Something by Human Entertainment, which tells me it's either going to be a fighting game, a driving game, or maybe, I think they worked on an odd strategy game or two, so this one might be one of those. Looks very anime, so that's fine. Crayon Shin-Chan 2. I've heard they're pretty good games. I've never played a Shin-Chan game. I do have like a Mario hack of a Shin-Chan game on the Game Boy though, so I don't like that one, so hopefully it's a different one. This thing, yeah, again, when I saw this box art, I said, I need this in my life. This is based on a manga, I want to say called Goldfish Panic, and all I know about it is that. So, I guess we'll be finding out in the future what that is. And the final stack of Game Boy games, we have this thing, which I think is a perfect example of why I like to buy games in, like just random games in large quantities like this. What is this game? It doesn't appear to have a date on it. It doesn't have a developer or publisher on it. Its name's in Japanese, so I couldn't tell you. But I had an absolute blast trying to figure out what this game was. I spent 3 hours yesterday trying to identify this game, and it's not that great a game. The sad thing is, I thought this was a completely different game. I thought this was Tekkaman Blade, which is a game I've been looking for a while. It's not even really all that great a game, but I enjoy studying weird things. Next we have what appears to be knockoff SD Gundam. Alright then. After that, we have actual SD Gundam. I now have, I think, like 2/5 the Night Gundam series, because I have the Super Famicom one as well. More SD Gundam, doesn't hurt my feelings. Even more SD Gundam. Are you noticing a pattern yet? This you could claim to be SD Gundam, but you'd be wrong. This is actually the Compata Heroes games, like the Great Battle games. I believe this is Tekkyu Fight, which had a direct sequel on the Super Famicom. And I love the Compata Heroes games, so I'm happy to have this. Another one, this is Battle Dodgeball. I have the Super Nintendo version. But again, I'm trying to collect all of these. Unfortunately, one is a PSP pre-order bonus, so I don't think I'm going to ever get it. But Kirby Pinball. Where can you go wrong? It's Kirby, it's pinball. And finally, we have this. Samurai Spirits, and I don't know if you can read it, but up here it says Dead Heat Fighters. Now, Dead Heat Fighters was a sub-series of Game Boy games made by CHAR that took 7 games. Let's see if I can name them off the top of my head. Samurai Spirits 3, Fatal Fury, King of the Fighters 95, King of the Fighters 96, World Heroes 2, and Battle Arena Toshinden. There we go. Look at me. With the odd one being Battle Arena Toshinden, they were all Neo Geo games. And, I mean, even the consoles couldn't do Neo Geo games properly. So to make a handheld version, they decided to have a little bit of fun with it, and ended up making them sort of like chibi, and like super deformed and very, very stylish. I love it. I want to try and collect all of them. So to have one of these and Samurai Showdown, a game I love, doesn't hurt my feelings. And I'm seeing a red flashing battery on my thing, so I'm going to pause it here, charge my battery, and then we'll get back to this as soon as I possibly can. Okay, so fun story. To get the battery out of my camera, I had to disassemble my tripod, so that's sensible design. We've got a completely different camera angle here. I apologize. Anyway, we've covered Super Famicom, Game Boy stuff, so next would be N64. And here's where I started to really regret some things, but the first N64 game I got was Onagai Monsters. This is a monster rearing and breeding simulation RPG, and according to old friend of the show, Nico, this is the creepiest box art he's ever seen. I've been wanting to get this game for quite a while, and I'm glad I've got it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Robopon 64, which ironically he also had boxed, but I already own a box copy of that, so I don't need it. The next N64 game I've got is Wonder Project J2, sequel to Wonder Project J. It's sort of like a point-and-click adventure, all while having to train and teach this little android girl how life works and stuff. This is the sequel to the Super Nintendo Wonder Project J, which had a very similar concept. It's a really neat idea for a game. I've never played the first one. I hope to someday, though, but that's not too bad. I've got 3 more N64 games, and these were all released in North America, but we have some awesome box art with F-Zero X. I have not, and I'm going to try and tweak the focus, there we go, sorry about that, but I have not owned a copy of F-Zero in any capacity. I've got a few digital copies, but this is the first physical copy of F-Zero I've ever had. I want to get the GameCube one, but I played F-Zero X when I was a kid and really enjoyed it. Next we have Dual Heroes, and this was available in North America. I've heard it's not that good, but just look at that box art. How can you not look at this beautiful box art and say, I need this in my life? You can't. I absolutely needed this in my life, if only for the box art. But I really did want to get that game. And finally, for my N64 pickups, this, Kirby 64, or if my Japanese is right, Hoshinokabi Rokujuyon. I think it's been a while since I've taken some Japanese classes, but I used to own this when I was a kid. In fact, or the English version anyway, and it was a big game when it came out. I remember going on this like adventure day with my grandma, and one of the biggest things that happened that day is I got to play a demo of it at a local airport, and that still sticks with me. Unfortunately, when I did get my English copy, my dad threw it out like immediately, which is kind of sad, but it's good to have a physical copy of this, even though I already have a few digital copies like on the Wii U, as well as the Kirby Dream Collection. Having a physical copy does make me kind of happy. That said, this is where I was starting to regret some things, but part of that's because the seller was really obscure about his prices. And all he said when I asked him about his N64 stuff was, well, if you want if you want Ocarina of Time, it's going to cost a little more than the rest. And that's really all he said to me. But that said, I do need a gold copy of Ocarina of Time because my gold Majora's Mask is lonely. I don't even like Majora's Mask, but I've got it. And he had Snowboard Kids 1 and 2, as well as Chameleon Twist 1 and 2. Oh, and the Indiana Jones game. He had all of those. I really want to get all of those. I had to pass them up just because I thought I was getting really high up in cost. And the sad fact is I really wasn't as high as I thought I was in terms of cost. But unfortunately, this is why you need to properly price things, people. But yeah, so that's sad. There were some N64 things I could have gone and gotten, and I didn't. Now, like I said, there was another guy there, and we were kind of dueling over stuff, and I'll get my lens cap out of the way, because that'll be important in a sec. But it's almost like I've done this before, except I haven't. But like I said, we were kind of dueling, and he ended up getting a few things, I ended up getting a few things, and, well, most importantly, I think we ended up ultimately stepping on each other's toes, because I know he wanted Wonder Project J2, I know he wanted F-Zero, I know he wanted Kirby. I know he wanted Chalbo 55 and the Bomberman games, but at the same time he got a reproduction cost, or cartridge. It's very clear it's 5 a.m. when I'm recording this. He got a reproduction cartridge of Return to Dinosaur Island, which was the fan-made sequel to Mario World, which is a game I've always wanted to play. I never saw like a full boxed reproduction before. So I'm sad I missed out on that, and he got Donkey Kong Land on the Game Boy, which is the only one I'm missing, so he ended up getting a lot of things I would have liked. I think I got some things he would have liked, but at the same time, I felt like at the end of this, I really needed something that, despite the fact I was doing so well, I really needed to feel like I took home the gold. And I will not apologize for that joke. This is, if you're not familiar, a PS2 for one thing, but it's a gold Gundam PS2. And the thing is, I have wanted to get a PS2 to play imports for a very, very long time. And the thing about that is, I've bought since 2 or 3 that were like modded, both chipped and through having to swap discs and nonsense, which is a lot of extra shit I don't want to deal with. And none of them worked. So at one point I just got so frustrated and said, okay, fine. I'll just get a Japanese PS2. But the thing is, Japanese PS2s cost a lot of money. Cheapest ones are like $200. And then with shipping, that's at least $300. And I said, fine, if I'm going to get one, I'm going to get this awesome gold PS2 stylized after this guy right here, dropping his rifle, the Hyaku Shiki. Except this thing does not come with sunglasses. But the point is, it's a cool PS2 that I really wanted, but also it means that I can now play Japanese PS2s, assuming it works, because, I mean, you know, it is yard sale stuff, it's kind of iffy. But what's really interesting about this, if I can just get this stuff out of the way for just a second, is something kind of serendipitous about this. Because here's the controller. And I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but there's like these weird scuffs right here on this controller, as well as a really bad thumb pad, but I mean, it's a shell, I can swap it out, that's not a problem. But these little scuffs on the shell right here, I recognize them. Because like I said, I looked on eBay for a Japanese PS2, and I decided on getting this guy right here. So this was one specific listing that I had been eyeing up for months. And I guess it's just, I don't know, fate that it came into my possession. And the nice thing is, the gold Gundam PS2 is really, really expensive. I mean, normally it comes with 2 controllers, a copy of Gundam vs. Zeta, as well as a stand, and all I got was the system. It doesn't even come with cables, but I already have cables because I've got a PS2. But the guy sold me this guy for $100, which is pretty good. In fact, let's just do, because this is damn near the end of the video, let's just do a tally of costs just so that you can get some perspective on this. So this is PS2 was $100. These Bomberman games, that was $25. The other 40 games I have on here, that was another $25. I think I did pretty good. That said, I still do wish I could have gotten a little bit more, especially from the N64 games. But I think yesterday was pretty cool, and it didn't end there. There's one more thing. So remember that other guy that was there? Well, he was trying to barter on everything. And the thing is, like I kind of said, the guy was basically giving his games away. And I think he got a little frustrated with the guy trying to undercut him on prices and stuff, because, I mean, again, it makes good business sense, but it doesn't make a lot of sense when you're someone basically giving your stuff away. And he had this reproduction that he was trying to buy at a cheap cost, and I was leaving at this point, and I think the seller just got so pissed off at him that he literally caught up to me in my car and just handed me it. So now I've got a copy of Undercover Cops, which that's a NES or SNES beat 'em up. It never officially came out in North America. It only came out in Japan, and it's ridiculously expensive. Like, the Japanese version, cheapest one I saw recently was $600. Now, this is a reproduction of the North American prototype with Japanese box art because it looks better, so it's not worth anywhere near that much. In fact, there's a $24.99 price sticker on it. But to get that for free, that was pretty cool of him. And, well, that's all I got yesterday plus last week. And, well, like I said, when I got this gold PS2, I wish I had some more games for it. I've got literally one that I can test with, but it's going to open some doors, hopefully, and because it's Japanese importing, it's going to be a lot cheaper, hopefully, so I can make more videos at a lower cost, and take the few donations I have, again, not so subtle hint there, a little bit further. And that's good. But again, gaming isn't really a thing in this town, so to get some kind of like mass haul like this is just incredible to me. But that was the contents of my treasure chest of awesome, and you know, I actually like that. I think I'm gonna have to use that. You're even seeing behind the scenes how my brain works, but yes, that was my treasure chest of awesome. Biggest deal is, of course, this PS2, but Chalvo 55 is probably a close second. Wish I got some more N64 games, especially the Chameleon Twist and Snowboards Kids games, and Gold Zelda, but what can you do? And, you know, I might not have gotten Pokemon Crystal, I might not have gotten an SP, I might never get an SP, but I think I did ridiculously well with what small amount of funding I had to work with, and, you know, maybe I'll do another one of these if you people like this, but, I mean, if you want to let me know how you feel, write in the comments section. If you want to call me a dumbass, do it, because evidently I'm still trying to figure out how my DSLR I've earned for 5 years, or I've had for 5 years works, and, you know, maybe like the video if you like it, and, I mean, you want to see more, subscribe to my channel, and hey, you want to take a step further, check out the Patreon. Get in on that, and in turn get on the Discord so you can have a direct line to me and the rest of the community. And you can talk about whatever games you recently got, and complain about how bad some of them are, because trust me, we do that from time to time as well. But anyway, this has been a video that I was either going to do, or it was never going to happen. And, you know, it might have had some bumps thanks to my terrible camera battery and my terrible tripod, but, you know, I think it worked better than I thought it would be. But, anyway, that has been the end of this. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, Internet.